Hey everyone, just bringing you your crypto update for today for SOL and BTC and total market cap. And it's been a pretty quiet weekend overall. We seem to have all the volatility in a couple of days leading up to the weekend, and then after that, it's just been. I suggest they're just trying to replace the liquidity that was taken out of the market in that pre-weekend volatility, which seem to be doing a pretty good job of. So looking at liquidation levels, on the 1 day, SOL has a couple of clusters still. It hasn't really changed all that much. So basically that sort of 198 to the upside through to sort of like the low 200s. And the clusters to the downside are sort of around your 186 down to about your 183. But there is some levels on the charts, daily levels at sort of 182. So I imagine they'd probably sweep a little bit lower than 183 if they went down on a short-term move. For BTC, it's pretty even really, 115 to the downside and 120 to the upside. All of this pretty much has confluence with some of the structural moves that are on the charts short term. And it's pretty even. You'd say on SOL, people are a little bit more bullish on the 1 day. And same with BTC, maybe just a little bit more bullish, but BTC is very even. We have a look at the 7 day. Same sort of clusters. There is that small area that's starting to form up around 210 to 213. That has confluence with some of the higher level rejection areas that exist on SOL, and the numbers to the downside still just sort of add up. So you can see there the big spike that exists at 182.2, which is the daily hold level. And then, of course, if that daily hold level was to bounce and then they continue to move down, then it goes into the 170s. For BTC, again, not much really changes. Maximum sort of push up is the little cluster developing around 125k. And there isn't a lot of reason on the 7 day to go below 115 at this stage. And overall, you'd probably say SOL's pretty balanced as far as bulls and bears, but BTC is looking kind of bearish on the 7 day. Okay, 30 day. So 30-day positions are bullish on both. You've sort of got those grouped clusters heading all the way up to 212, 213 on SOL, and then all the way down to sort of like the low 160s to the downside. And as far as BTC goes, 110, sort of would wipe out everything to the downside, and 125 to the upside. So we've just sort of quickly gone through that, but let's just have a look at it another way. Where are we? Here we go. So this gives you a bit of a picture about where the higher leverage sits and sort of how it's moved over the weekend. So this red stuff, that's all your 100x, and then you've got your 50x, and then you've got your 25x leverage. So you can see the levels sort of line up either way. If they were to sweep to the downside in the shorter term, you could sort of see that 178, 179 on SOL. That sort of gets you down below that 115. And the top side target's sort of around that 202 area. So all of this has confluence to the levels that we'll show you on the charts in a sec. On this side, what you're seeing here is a slightly higher time frame view of leverage. And when we get into some of the bigger time frame charts on BTC, you'll notice there are these areas around 98, which is a little bit scary because we are creating a reason to maybe go to those today on some of the high time frame weekly closes. And our monthly levels here at 102, and of course everything else in between. 116 is quite a key level. There's a lot of 100x leverage sitting there, but yeah, we'll get into the charts, and I think you'll see that based on sort of these more sort of higher time frames, there's not a lot of reason to be traveling up, but there's a lot of liquidity to take to the downside right now. And where the clusters are to the upside sort of say to me that if we spiked up and grabbed that, the problem is we then roll over and just want to go all the way down into this stuff. So hopefully we get it down first, then up. that'll be an easier move to play, I think, because target wise it's easier to know where our entries are to the downside, but it may go the other way, so we just need to be ready for that. Okay, so SOLBTC Strength, it's still underneath the break level. Now, this is a break origin level, and this is a really weak rejection for that. So it just seems like it's waiting to do more, or it might be that SOL is about to flip really super bullish against BTC. Either way, the strength that this is sort of showing, given that it's rejected off a daily origin level, the strength that it's showing really does say that when this takes off, it's going to take off big time compared to what BTC is doing. So if we look at our safety assets, again, kind of in limbo. We haven't hit the trend to the upside. We haven't hit the holds to the downside. We bounced off the range trend, and after bouncing off the range trend, we should have traveled to these higher areas around 66.4. We haven't. Really don't know why. It's again just sort of in limbo, like it's waiting for something. It's about the only way you can sort of suggest that. This is the type of price action that you'll see before a news event, and then the event comes out, and then everything goes chaotic after that, and all the moves play out. It spikes in one direction and bounces in the other, and everything just gets done really quickly. So there might be some announcements maybe today, Trump meetings, the Russia war thing maybe. So looking at totals, and I've done these up a few different ways this time. The total has stayed within that daily range, which again is quite bullish. And as you can see on the lower time frame, it's holding the trend. So we should get a new downtrend form today, and that might create a retest or a pushback down, but it's still actually looking pretty bullish as far as strength to the US dollar anyway. So the reason I've done it up a couple other ways is that this way I typically do it is showing the real value versus how many hamburgers you can buy with your crypto. So let me show it to you a slightly different way. Okay, so this is not to do with value. This is just to do with dollar, and not the strength of the dollar. So from that, it looks like it's done a sweep to the upside. It's pulled back under trend. If it was to even just come down a little bit more before close in 2 hours, it could open on the wrong side of trend and then have a bit of a fall or a tumble. It could also open the next candle, push up, and then dump down for a sweep. But basically, it is very well wedged. So it's kind of just stuck in there on the weekly. If we look at it on the 2 week, it looks like it's going to create a hold level. So that would be at about 3.61 trillion. And it's also going to relocate trend. So the trend is currently down here from December. And you can see it sort of bounced off that already here. It's created that hold level today, but the wick on the top of that candle is too big. So what's going to happen is the trend is going to move up to the top side. And sorry, it might have been from November, but whatever. It's going to move up to the top side. When it moves to the top side, it now has a point of rejection, and it would also have a hold level. So if it goes down first, it's going to pump up, and that'll be the whole market will pump. If it goes up first, it's going to trap longs, and it's going to dump down into that hold level. Now the scenario that can happen here is that if it stays down for too long, then you get a distribution candle on the wrong side of the uptrend, and if that happens, you actually then break the uptrend, and then you have further distribution. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come back down here to retest these 3.23s or 3.04 levels that are down here, because they haven't been retested. and the hard close of this backside range of 3.23 is today's hard close. So yeah, just bear in mind they are shifting support to the top, resistance to the top. They're building a target for that, and they are hard closing a level that's even further down. So yeah, so this is looking very pump and dumpy or dump and pumpy, whichever way it goes first, it'll flip the other way. All right, so let's have a look at SOL. So SOL on the daily is rejecting off an origin level, and again, it's a very weak rejection. It's still holding its uptrend. In fact, it hasn't really even gone back to it yet, which is quite incredible. So yeah, it's shown a lot of strength. We've got that daily support there at 182. If the market does a pump and dump, we might hit this level up here at 206. So 206 is was a daily break level. It's had 2 days of distribution after its initial touch of the break level, so it's now an origin level. This origin level that's in here is, I guess you'd argue it's a slightly different time frame because of all the candles. But if we do get a push up to 206 tomorrow, not only would it be retracing to the backside of the interior trend, but we'd be hitting an origin level that was created 4 days ago. Now, if we do that, that will probably then have a really good reason to dump. And we haven't hard closed this level here at 195 properly yet on the daily. And there's just some real weirdo cheekiness going on with them not touching that 182.6 level down there. So very probable daily move is going to be either down to the hold, push up to the origin and reject lower, or it's going to go up to the origin, reject back to the hold. There's going to be something's going to happen in here. So keep an eye on that for maybe taking a scalp. It might turn into something bigger if it's down first, but it looks like there should be a pretty good move in amongst those areas. So looking at it on the weekly, we're below the weekly trend. We'd have to get sort of, let's just inspect that on a lower time frame. We'd have to close over 93.4-ish today. Could happen, but we'd have to close above that if we wanted to be in a position to open the next candle on the top side of that downtrend. It's probably more likely, just given confluence of the other time frames, that we pump up, we hit that, and then we come back down to retest one of these hard close break levels, etc., which are around 179. So if you've been watching these updates for a while, you'll notice that as we go up in time frames on both liquidity and on structure, we start to see that liquidity is forming in the areas where the structure points. That's why you sort of get ranging as such. You might get your daily goes up and down, and then it goes down to your weekly, and it's just, the weekly candle just looks like one candle, but it's got those daily ups and downs inside of it. So this is a very bullish place, really, to be opening. It's one of the best opens, as you can see, we've had in a long time. So from where we are, 178, and then we managed to open a candle at 188, and if we can open it where we are now, it's still positive. We're opening candles at higher levels on the weekly. It's what we want, and we're wicking up. And so when we get into this bigger time frame stuff, so let's now look at a 2-week. So 2-week structure, we're opening on the top side of the 2-week range trend. We're opening on the top side of the 2-week break level, and we're creating 2-week hold level. So we're opening on the top side of the 2-week interior trend. So even if we got like a flush over the next week that was maybe generated by the daily rejection, maybe generated by the weekly, our 2-week starting point is still really good. So we can then bounce off any of these levels, sort of that are 180, 179, and then we can head up. And And now we've got some really clean targets, like, up around 247 to 264. So, and topside trend, as well. So we're finally actually starting to see some targets that can get us above previous all-time high. So let's look at a 4-week. So 4-week is, just delete that. 4-week is going to break its downtrend today. So that's our current downtrend. 4-week is going to break it as long as we stay above 165, which we should. Now we could retest that 165 as a retest of the broken trend. So that's possible. And the trend then moves to the top side around 203 as potential rejection. Okay? We're going to be above the break level as long as we stay above 188.7. And so you might see a move between the break level, the trend, and then down to do a retest of the previous trend. So it's all of the stuff is in that liquidity. If they wanted to take it all, they could just do it with this 4-week just by retesting the backside of the trend broken. And they could do that by bouncing up and taking everything on the top side up to sort of like 202, 203, 206, those sort of levels, which is all where that liquidity is. They could push through to that, that 210 even if they wanted to, and then wick back down. That'd just be a sweep of the trend, and then down it goes. It's like that sweep of the trend you see down the bottom there. Maybe we get a sweep to the upside and then down. So, but either way, they can go down and up or up and down, but the structure's there. We just got to wait for them to make a choice about which way they go first, and then we can dive in on that one and then capture it when it finds its support. So the 8-week is building a hold level at 147. So that's kind of a new floor, really. It's going to be, we are opening a candle above one of the oldest trends on the chart. As long as we stay above 187 for close today, then we are holding the uptrend, the interior uptrend on the 8-week. Any dive of that trend results in the price rebounding back up, and we've got a break level target of 247 to go to as an untested break level. So that's looking real positive. It'll be the next candle. So say the next 8-week candle closes an accumulation. That's the candle that will move the trend. If that wick is too tall on that candle, that'll be the top of the market for SOL. So really it comes down to what it does, because the trend, well, at least it may not be the top of the market, but it will be a big rejection, because if this trend moves to, say, I don't know, let's just put it here, the giggles. If this 8-week candle comes up here, closes with a wick on the top of it, the next rejection is the one that can bring it all the way back down here to 147. So we're getting into territory of, yep, we could be pretty close to the end of things. Where was that trend? Okay, it was there. Yeah, so we're getting into that territory where we could be getting close to the end of things. But when I say that, 8 weeks, then the next candle, so it's still a while. And when this wants to move, it can really move. So you could see a pretty cool top. Okay. This one is, as you can see, hello darkness, my old friend. This is something we created yesterday or the day before. And we shifted the trend to the top side. We have a hold level down there at 157. And we've just been hugging it and holding it. So yes, we've got all this real bullish stuff. The close price at really good levels. But these are the kind of things that actually say that we probably will have that flush. So it's going to be very strange timing-wise if that just pushes through that trend for 38 days, maybe. But I think these are the kind of things that I've put in place to send us back to those 150, 160 areas. And it will not be a straight line. If they do it, it'll have some bounces along the way. But yeah, just bear in mind, charts always have two directions, ups and downs. Okay. And so then you turn around and look at that one. So this was also created same day. So if you wonder why everyone is so confused right now, we've created a move to 247, and we've created a move to 157. So it's going to be absolutely stunning if we go to 157. We all enter a wicked long, and then we just ride it all the way up to 247. I don't know what we're going to do with the rest of our day. We can just post cat memes and stuff in the Discord, but yeah. But you've also got to be conscious that this could pop. 114-day structure is bigger than 38-day structure, so maybe the 38-day just gets left behind, and the 114-day just goes powering through to 247. So keep an eye on that. And the monthly is still in a good place to break trend, but it's not for a while. So over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin on the daily, it hasn't actually broken. It hasn't lost. Sorry, I should say its range. So this 2-candle range up here, we are underneath it, but until we close a day in distribution, we don't lose the range. So it could just be a deviation to grab some liquidity to push up, to hit the hold level at about 120, to reject the hold level to come down. Totally possible. The interior daily trend will move today, and if we close, where's that trend? There's that trend. So as you can see, we're just sort of just over top of it at the moment. So if we went down to about 117.2, then we'd be under it. But as it stands, we're sort of just over the top of it. When we break a downtrend, the rule is that you then travel to an untested hold level. Now, because this candle is already testing the backside level, breaking this trend should really send the price up to 120. But it may not be the easiest thing to do that if it then has to fight with this trend. So, but it does look like a pump to 120 may come about, particularly because we're still holding the uptrend as well, although that is also very much teasing us. So that's the daily. Yeah, a lot can change in 2 hours, but I would suggest that if it closes like this, around that high 117s, then that little spike up to 180, that little spike up to 120 is probably going to happen. But then 120 is a rejection level, so yeah, that could then initiate the dip. Okay, so looking at the daily, I have a weekly. Right, no, I didn't. Okay, we'll just have a quick look at. I missed a chart this morning. We'll have a look at the 2 week. When we get to the end, we'll do a weekly. We'll just draft it up. You can see how it's done. Looking at the 2 week, if we stay above 117.224, then we create a hold level. And then we can either travel up to the topside trend and reject back down to the hold level. And we don't really want that. That's 124, 125 area. That would be a pretty solid sweep of the top side. And then we're going to travel back to the hold level. The issue I sort of see with this time frame is if we look at it lower, the tree disappeared. So that, okay, there it is. Yeah. The issue I see with this time frame is that we're on the wrong side. of the uptrend. So yeah, we're creating a hold level, but if we open on the wrong side of that uptrend and that hold level pushes us back up, we're just going to reject back down and we're going to keep going down. So you really want this to actually close above 119 today, and that requires it to almost push into that daily hold level prior to daily close, prior to breaking daily trend. That's tricky. I don't know if it's going to be able to do that in the next couple of hours, but I guess we shall see. So this could open on the wrong side of the 2-week trend, and it could reject. And if it does, it's got so much confluence with coming down to do these, because this is the first hard close of the break levels down here at 110. So if you hard close a break level, you typically retest a break level. So if we're going to hard close this candle on the wrong side of the uptrend, and we're going to hard close the break level at 110, what's going to happen? Well, the daily might spike up to 120 to the daily hold, reject, and then send us back down to, and hopefully it doesn't go too high and take too much liquidity, otherwise it'll probably want to go lower. But it's, if we get a little pump, that'll be sort of a very trappy trap, and then down we come here to that 110 to bounce, or the 105 to the front side. But I don't know whether that'll happen. We'll have another trend that we can bounce off as well. So but yeah, I keep saying it in all these videos, but I just do not trust Bitcoin right now. It looks like it really, really wants to trap all these people that are overly bullish. Okay, so let's look at the 4-week. Same thing, 4-week might end up being a hard close of the lower break levels, in which case a dump back to 109.998. More so, the issue is that if the 4-week actually closes up, it shifts the resistance trend from here. It moves it up to here. Now, if it does that and it pumps into the trend, where would that be? 125. If it pumps into the trend at 125, it's probably going to want to come back to the hold at 108.9. So we really want to see this actually go down first. To be honest, you're not going to want to hit that. Yeah, hitting that is potentially going to kick off a much bigger retrace. So yeah, so that's looking a little bit on the bearish side, as far as short term. But if it bounces off the backside of this range, then next candle goes up, trend moves. So yeah, it's certainly looking like it could do a retrace. Okay, and looking at the 8-week, this is going to close almost certainly in accumulation. It's not going to retrace that whole candle today. It is very much closing, as long as it doesn't go below 116.7, it's closing above trend. So yeah, all of this is sort of saying the short-term timeframes might take us on a liquidity flush. The high timeframes would then take over and send us back up. This, if it was to retest the backside of the range, not hard close, but if it just retested the backside of the range on the new candle, that's again a retest of 109.988. Now, one of the things I looked at with this time frame is that we have got this range trend that was broken in the last bear. So the candle in January 2022 broke the range trend, and those typically get retested, and they almost certainly reject when they get retested for the first time. And that gives us sort of a topside current target of about 247 if it went in a straight line, which it won't. So let's just say it does it at the very end of the next candle. It's about 155. So that's probably a good trend to chuck on your charts and just put an alert on it. And then what I'd also just suggest you do is just copy paste it, because sometimes these higher time frames, they reject but don't touch. Good old TradingView glitches. But just copy paste it and then move your trend and just put it like that, so that put the alert on that one so that you actually get the alert prior to it happening, and then you can start paying better attention to it. But you might end up finding that you actually sell the top. So I just keep a bit of an eye on that. And let's have a look at that. So the front side hold level to this is there at 94. I don't think we can really go there. That would be one hell of a dive. But you never know. And the 16 week, so 16 week is holding above trend. We need to stay over 116.3 roughly if we want to stay above that, the highest of those trends. This one's really hard to figure out the trend on. And it's got that hold level there at 98. So when we were talking about liquidity, and I said there's actually a pile of liquidity starting to build up at 98, that's a very juicy target. And CZ put out a tweet, back a couple of years ago about how newspaper articles will be printed that Bitcoin dumps below 100K for the day or something like that. And if you put your tin hat on and you think that all this stuff is kind of predetermined, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Well, there's your 98K target. Liquidity is there. It could happen. So yeah, so I personally would be taking an entry anyway at 110, but I'll be watching it very closely, and I'll make sure that my liquidation level is below 98 until I actually see that 110 start to properly develop, and then I'll add size to it. But in the meantime, it's there. It's below the trends. We've pushed all the way up through them. So yeah, it could wick down, grab that, then go. And the interior support trend is also coming through there. So yeah, I mean, effectively, there's a lot of reasons why price could come back down to that sort of level. Sure, let's just change that to some other style so it shows up. Yeah, yeah, that's scary. We have the hold level, we have a movement back to the exterior trend, and we have it all in that 98K cluster. So just keep it in mind. It may not happen, but if it does, you heard it here first. Yep, so cool. That's it for today. Like, subscribe, and come join us in the Discord and all that other jazz, and hopefully get something out of this. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.